Hi everybody, my name is Hannah and this is Pepper and Pine, and I have a book haul to share with you today. These books are not for any particular unit that we're doing. Some of them are to accompany units that we've previously done, except for the ones on snails. I was so charmed by this picture book, I decided to create a whole unit around snails, which I can't imagine it taking longer than about a week. Okay, so the first book I want to show you is called Swirl by Swirl, Spirals in Nature. And I think this book would accompany a math unit or a nature study unit really well. The pictures are a little bit different than the ones that I typically go for, but they're super awesome to depict the spirals that you see in these different animals. And I'm not sure if they show plants as well, but the spiral shape that can be used in your math unit. And then you can also use this just to study the animals that are in this book, especially snails, because that was on the front cover, and I have another book on snails in here too. Okay, so that one is super gorgeous, and that's actually going to accompany not just a unit on math, but also our form drawing as well. Butterfly eyes. So once I got this one was suggested because it's by the same illustrator, and this one is on butterflies and probably other things in the meadow. I haven't actually read through these. These are still brand new to me, but I did browse through this one, and it is so nice because the poetry in it is really unique in the sense that you can see that it works with the page, and I can't remember the name of the poetry where it moves to kind of signify or to represent the poem. There's a specific name for that, and I apologize, I can't remember, but you're going to see that throughout this book, and I really, really love books like this. I have another poetry book that I like from years and years ago, that's a go-to poetry book that I love, that has kind of like a similar way that a similar way that the poetry is written, so that it is an element of the illustration as well. So that is this book. And actually, we did read a couple of these poems. I apologize, I forgot, but it's still a brand new book for us. Look at that. So many possibilities for illustrations and for different unit studies. So I didn't have this for a particular unit. I just got it because I was inspired by this book here, which this book I was inspired by another homeschooling family on Instagram. I saw this book on one of her posts and was inspired to get it for ourselves. So this could work well as a poetry book. It could work well to accompany a nature unit study. Got a lot of possibilities. Also, they're really just beautiful picture books in and of itself. The Vast Wonders of the World, biologist Ernest Everett Just. And I recently, like maybe in the last maybe 3 or 4 years, started collecting a lot of books on female role models, and there were a lot of women of color included in that unit. And it's excuse me, primarily for my young daughter, but I thought that I felt disappointed in myself for not having included those books earlier on for my 3 sons, but I definitely felt a strong need for it when my daughter was starting to become school-aged and thinking about her future. I felt like we needed to include a lot more female role model picture books and other kinds of books so that she had some ideas of what she could do in life. And in doing so, as I had those, then I came upon this book more recently. I love biography picture books. Have not read it yet. This is a haul video, so most of these books are ones that I have only just received. But do check back to the review videos for each of our units so you get a better idea of how these books worked in with our units and how we like them. Dollier's Book of Norwegian Folk Tales. So we do folk tales and mythology and legends with a lot of our history units, and I really like Dollier's books, and I went ahead and got this one on Norwegian folk tales because our Norse mythology and Norwegian and Viking unit is a little bit on the smaller side, and I like to add in books about stories and legends and folk tales. I definitely like including those kinds of books in our unit studies, and that is why we got this book. And while there are some illustrations throughout the book, they are the pencil illustrations. The front cover is really beautifully illustrated, and the paper is so nice. I really like good quality books, and this one really delivers. It's a nice thick paper, very nice to the touch, and an overall really beautiful book. I definitely like to look for the hardback books over the paperback books whenever possible. I want to show you one book that I don't think I shared in any of my haul videos, because I bought it directly from the author, Elizabeth Seward. She's a Waldorf handwork teacher with many, many years of experience, and went to one of her conferences and bought this book there, and of course learned a lot of handwork projects, spent some more time with her throughout the year, and did a few tutorials with using this book. And so while we're going to be using this book throughout, this year and the coming years, I think that I actually forgot to actually show it to you. So I want to spend the time right now to share with you Teaching Through Stories, Jane and Jeremy Learn to Knit. This is the Waldorf approach to handwork, and this one is really ideal for a young student. So grade 1, maybe grade 2, because it takes you through the stories that you can use in order to bring these lessons to life and to teach these skills. And it's so complete because it goes through a lot of troubleshooting ideas with knitting, and maybe difficulties isn't the right word, but different challenges you might encounter with your students. So overall, a fabulous book. We've already started some projects from this. I don't learn very well from books, to be honest. When it comes to skills, I learn best from a person. So luckily, I've already learned some of the skills necessary in order for me to be able to do these projects, but I don't do really well with following a pattern or just learning a skill from a book. So if you don't know how to knit and you're like me, you might want to talk to somebody or take a class before getting a book like this. You don't want to get a book like this and then think, oh, now I know how to do it and it'll be just fine. You might still need a guide to help you through that. Nature Tonic. This is a book that we actually got a few months ago, but I didn't include it in any of the haul videos that I was sharing at that point. This one, I'm not quite sure how we're going to end up incorporating this into our homeschool. When I first saw it, I absolutely fell in love with it and thought we have to find a way to include this. It's called A Year in My Mindful Life, Nature Tonic. And what I love about this is that it takes you throughout the entire year, and each day you have a different prompt. So day 1, arrange a day without any commitments and let yourself become one with the natural flow of the day. Try not to look at the clock, sleep when you feel tired, eat when you feel hungry, try to spend time outside, make little notes during the day about how this feels. I love this. And then I thought, practically speaking, how can I do that with all my children or my whole entire family? And because I couldn't get through the first prompt, I didn't do any of the other ones. So we got to pick a day where we can get through this and then work on the rest of them. They're so neat, really creative ideas on what you can do to be one with nature, to be mindful, to look at your day in a way that maybe you haven't looked at it before. So really love this. Haven't used it yet to give you feedback on it, but when we do, of course, I'll let you know. Because of an Eggcorn. I think I actually already shared this book, but because we were getting a lot of our curriculum in the form of books and living books and other things kind of piecemeal one by one, I actually can't remember if I already shared this in a previous haul, so I apologize if you've already seen this one. I'm going to share it with you again right now. Because of an Eggcorn, this is a really nice little picture book. It's a super simple read. I think when I saw this the first time, I didn't realize it was going to be quite this simple. So this is kind of too simple for my children. I love, love, love picture books. I usually find them to be an valued resource. They're usually really rich with illustrations and text, but this is really, I think, designed for a very, very young child, maybe even a toddler. And so not quite what I was looking for, but the illustrations are really beautiful, and I'll definitely include it in our nature studies. Ocean Anatomy. I've been waiting for this book for so long. When we first did our ocean main lesson block, this book wasn't published yet. So I just used Nature Anatomy, which was sufficient. There were enough things in there to complement our unit, but I am super, super excited about Ocean Anatomy because this is just going to have just so much more. If you want to do an ocean unit, the illustrations are beautiful. My only concern with a book like this is the amount of content you get. It's little bits here and there. I just feel like it needs to complement more resources if you're using this to put together a unit study. It's so beautifully illustrated that even if you need to supplement it with other content, I would just get it for the illustrations, especially if you want to include that into your main lesson block or into a unit study approach. Having these illustrations, especially if you're not an artist, it makes it so much easier to copy something this beautiful. So really, really love this book. Are You a Snail? So once I saw that Swirls by Swirls book, I'm like, oh, we need to do a snail unit study. And I really like these backyard books. We have them for Are You an Ant and Are You a Bee? And the story is super cute. It asks all these questions. You might be a snail if you like damp places, or you might be a snail if something else. And then you get to the end and it's like, well, if you're all these things, you might be a snail, but you might not. You might be a human child. So it's a really cute, kind of fun book. I love the illustrations. I like the story story-driven way that it's written, because it just takes you on a little story journey through understanding what a snail is. So different than a typical nonfiction picture book. So definitely love this one. And the last book I want to show you, again, I can't remember if I showed this one to you before. I might have, so I apologize. It's called Seeds and Trees, and I feel like I might have, but hey, it's a gorgeously illustrated picture book, so I'm going to show it to you now. And this one is just super beautiful. Look at all those lovely illustrations. This could be a really fun book to read aloud to begin your school day, maybe for your opening activities, or just to invite the students into a learning space. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more of our homeschool hauls, that complete playlist is in the description box below. You can also find the link to the blog post that accompanies this video. And if you want to see how our homeschool is progressing on a daily basis, you can find me on Instagram at Pepper and Pine.